Começando mais uma aula de telegrafia. Hoje o nosso texto em cima dos 125 caracteres em 5 minutos. O texto é um pouquinho maior, ok? Mas o importante é a cadência, tá bom? Então, quem faz aí de segunda, às quartas e sextas, às 4h40, vai abrindo o caderno, vai se preparando, pegando a caneta. Nossos amigos deficientes visuais, visualização mental. E a gente começa em 3, 2, 1. corrigindo a última palavra, no lugar do N de November, saiu M de Mike, ok? Seria internacionalmente. Tá? Ficou internacionalmente. Então, corrigi, tá bom? No lugar do M é o N, ok? Então, lendo todo o texto, foi o seguinte. Considerando o benefício para os radioamadores brasileiros em viabilizar a radioexperimentação e a operação em faixas de radiofrequência padronizadas internacionalmente. Ponto. Papatango, ok? Papatango, abreviação de ponto. Ou dessa forma aqui, ó. Um som curto, um longo, um curto, um longo, um curto, um longo. Também é ponto, tá bom? Até eu tenho aceito mais aqui o papatango, ok? Bom, então a última palavra, você corrigiu, né? Internacionalmente. Não, o primeiro N, que entrou o M no lugar de Mike, né? Então, lendo mais uma vez, ficou o seguinte. Considerando o benefício para os radioamadores brasileiros em viabilizar a radioexperimentação e a operação em faixas de radiofrequência padronizadas internacionalmente. Ponto. Tranquilo? Treina aí a sua manipulação, não se esqueça, ok? Importante aí rever a aula. Tá? O mesmo ditado, faz aí 2, 3 vezes, não tem problema. Tá bom? Sempre é um treino a mais aí para o amigo, ok? Lembrando, a Anatel está abrindo inscrições para a classe B. Então, tanto ingresso como promoção está à disposição dos amigos, ok? Só procurar que você encontre. Bom, já estou disponibilizando essa aula aí para os amigos. Agora são 5h11. Lembrando que estamos em fase de acertos, arrumações, troca aqui da estação, ok? Mudança. Então, tem encerrado um pouco mais cedo a rodada para dar tempo de mexer lá em cima, onde vai passar a estação, ok? Então, mexendo com fiação, com cabo, com arrumação lá do outro local. Né? Também arrumando aqui esse local, tirando alguma coisa, já levando lá para cima. Então, a gente tem que sair um pouquinho mais cedo, tanto na primeira edição, como na segunda edição, ok? Até o dia que a gente já mexer lá na torre, né? E aí o cabo descer direto lá da torre para o forro e do forro lá para o quarto onde nós vamos ficar, ok? Então, avisa aos navegantes, pessoal aí não ficar preocupado que estamos realmente encerrando mais cedo nas 2 edições para mexer com tudo isso, preparando o terreno lá em cima, ok? Tô levando lá muita coisa para cima, né? Um monte de bugiganga da gente, manja? Aquelas latinhas com pecinhas, componentes, e ferro de solda, e ferramenta, ixi, um monte de quinquilharia. Então, a gente vai liberar esse quarto, né? E com isso eu tô levando aos pouquinhos, todo dia um pouco de tralha lá para cima, ok? Então, quando, né, finalizarmos aí o levantamento da antena. A gente vai levantar mais uns 6, 7 metros. Eu já vou estar lá em cima com tudo pronto e é só passar o cabo lá no local e tranquilo, ok? Vai ser já uma operação ali, finalizando essa mudança de local, tá bom? Então fica aí o aviso aos navegantes, saindo mais cedo na primeira edição e também na segunda edição para arrumarmos aí tudo isso. Tranquilo? E vamos em frente. Oportunidade com bom dia.
Hey everyone, this is Eric, KJ4YZI. Excited to have a new piece of gear here for my YouTube review channel, and this comes from www.gigaparts.com. This is an MFJ automatic antenna tuner. They call it the Antella tuner, model MFJ 993B. If you haven't seen my video, the 939, you might want to check that out. This is the bigger brother to the 939. This has more buttons up here for more features. It's got the lighted SWR cross needle, so it shows you your forward and your reflected power as well as your SWR with a nice bright white light. I'll show you here when I put it in action. It also has a digital screen on here, and this digital screen will show you in a digital form your forward, your reflected, and your SWR, as well as some other features such as your capacitance and L network values that this thing used to make the perfect tune. This has 20,000 memories in it, which the MFJ 939 has 20,000 memories as well. This will remember your tune as you work through the bands. The more you use it, the more it learns from you. Eventually, you'll be hitting frequencies you frequent, and it'll automatically go to a one-to-one tune. You won't have to let it tune again. But it's almost instantaneous. This is really a great piece of gear. So this is a dual power, 300 and 150 watts, meaning at 300 watts sideband CW, you can match a 6 to 1600 ohm impedance. On 150 watts, you can match 6 to 3200 ohms. That's a wide range. I mean, that's like a higher than a 32 to 1 SWR that you can match with this thing. And it has the potential to match just about any antenna to your radio. This is a very fast piece of gear, and I'll show you that when we hook it up to the radio. And I'll give you some more specs then. So we're going to turn this around on the back. You'll notice your two SO239 antenna jacks. This has a built-in antenna switch. Just pushing the antenna button, you can switch between 1 and 2. You can also use a balance line here. Now, keep in mind, it says on the back here, if you're going to use a balance line, you have to run a jumper from this post to this post, okay? And you don't ever want to have an antenna on antenna jack 1 as well as a balance line at the same time. That's a no-no for this tuner, okay? Your transmitter SO239, your ground lug. Always want to ground this directly to a ground lug. Your power over here on the left. Now, this is not just for the light, say on my MFJ 969. This is actually for the electronics in here to calculate the match for your tune. So you have to have the power, and it comes with a 12-volt power cord that will fit in here that will go right to your power supply. You can also purchase from MFJ a 12-volt wall wart for this, but it comes with the wire that I just hook right to my power supply. So it only requires 12-volt 1 amp. Your remote port, this is for a remote unit that they make for this, to where if you wanted to put this tuner underneath your radio or out of sight, you can have just the remote controls for the buttons on front here on the desk. That way you don't have to have the whole tuner there. I don't have the remote port. I won't be showing you that, but it is a good feature for some people depending on what they want to do with their shack. And the radio interface, This antenna tuner is compatible with a Linko, Kenwood, ICOM, Yaesu, various radios. I have a Yaesu FT450. Let me show you my interface cable here that I got with it. Now, this box here is the interface for my Yaesu, okay? The connections here are as follows. So what you'll do is you'll take the power cord that came with your tuner, you'll plug it into here, and you'll run that to your 12-volt power supply. The power cord, the red and black that comes off of here, okay, is going to fit in your tuner like this. The stereo jack that's built onto this is going to go into radio interface like this. So you have your power over here, your radio interface, okay? The power cord that came with this is going to plug into this unit right here. And then your radio interface, which is a modular 8-pin for Yaesu, like this, okay? And the other end of this will go into the tuning jack on the back of my FT450. Now, this may be different or set up a little bit differently depending on your radio, but this here will go into the tuning jack on the back of the radio. And that's for if you want to use the tune button on the radio to activate the automatic tuner. You can use this the way it is just by putting in your transmitter and an antenna. And as it detects the high SWR, it will automatically kick in and tune it and snap all the pieces together. So, but the radio interface is if you have a built-in automatic antenna tuner or the option to use an external, like on my 450, you can wire it in there. And as you hit the tune button, it'll automatically set this up for you. So let me go ahead and put this on the radio. We'll show you exactly what it does and how it works. And let's go do it. Okay, so I just put this on top of my FT450 so you can see exactly how big it is. It's a little bit longer. I would have preferred to have the radio on top, but for this video, I just set it on top here. You'll notice right off the bat now, you have your megahertz here, your frequency that you're operating on. It'll show you 1A. That is your antenna switch inside. So by pushing the antenna button, I can switch it to antenna 2, which would be the other coax port. If you're using a balanced wire, it's going to be on 1A. So you want to leave that on 1A. All right. Next is your SWR here in digital form, your reflected power and your forward power. Now here you also have an SWR and power meter for the digital graph. When you push mode, you'll have a graph here as you key up. It will show you here your SWR or your power, and then you push mode again, and it'll be SWR. We're just going to use it here in the screen that I'm used to. So for this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I have the radio interface connected, but I'll show you how that works. And then I'm going to show you just a direct through input to the transmitter port and output to the antenna. With the radio interface connected, you'll first want to set your radio. In this case, mine's the FT450. I'll go to tuner and I'll set that to external. All right. Now, as I hit the tune button to turn the tuner on and I hold it, it automatically sent a low 10-watt carrier to the tuner, which automatically tuned it 1-to-1. And that was pretty fast. And the other way you can use it is you can turn this off if you don't have that on, and just by transmitting on a CW mode, I have 20 watts set as just a low carrier I could transmit, and it'll automatically sense that it's a high SWR and it'll tune it. For instance, we'll go down here to 12 meters, okay? 20 watts on sideband CW mode. I'm going to hit the button. You'll see the SWR here, what it is, and instantly you'll see it tune to a 1-to-1. That fast, okay? Forward power 22, reflected 0, 1.0 SWR. Now it saved that in the memory so that if I go back to 10 meters, it should now automatically know exactly where it needs to put it, okay? And if it's not a 1.0 to 1, you can transmit and hold the tune button for about a second. It'll beep. Now it's a 1.0 to 1. 20 watts out, 0 watts reflected. And again, it's in the memory. So if we go back to 12 meters, done. Okay, it automatically found the match that it needed and applied it based on what it had used last time. And if you hit the mode button, again, you'll have a power graph or power bar there, okay? And that is in the small scale. All right, so that's showing 20 watts. Now, if I push mode again, it will be in the SWR mode. Okay, so that's just one little bar there for a 1.0 to 1. All right, if I push mode one more time, it's going to show me the values that it found and used for this tuning. 75 picofarads of capacitance, I believe, and 0.08 microhenries of inductance in the L network. So if you choose to build your own tuner, or you're curious on what the values are, there they are. Now, with the C up and C down buttons, I can change the capacitance here to a different value. If I want to use 105 picofarads, but watch what it does to the SWR when I transmit, it puts it higher. So the tuner is going to find the best match. But if you, for some reason, have to manipulate that, you can. Okay? 75 picofarads seems to be 1.0 to 1. And if you go too high, it'll automatically bring it back down to a safe value. So there is no accidental burn up. Okay. Now, same thing for the L. So you can choose 0.08 microhenries. I can move that up, but you'll hear the audible SWR alarm on my radio, and it'll bring it back down. All right. So unless you need that, don't worry about it. All right. Now, when you're using this with the radio interface, you want to make sure the tune button, the auto button, is out. Okay. And when it's in, it's automatic for the radio, or for the without the radio interface. When you take it out is when you can use the tune, okay, button here. And that's just so you don't have to have it in CW mode. Okay. You can leave it on upper sideband and just hold the tune button, and you see it sends a carrier here, tunes it. All right. But I prefer leaving that off. That's just me. We're going to go down here to 40 meters, CW mode for what I'm set on right now, and we'll transmit 1.0 to 1, and then this is the values that it used. Okay. I'm going to set this back to forward and reflective. All right. Now, if I go down to, say, 80 meters, my MFJ 969 roller inductor tuner you see right there, I could never get it to tune on 80 or 75. It just would not do it. Just too high of an SWR based on my antenna design. So by transmitting very quickly, it found a 1.0 to 1, 20 forward, 0 reflected. Okay. But a roller inductor tuner, I could never get it just right. And we'll go up here to, say, 30 meters. We're about where I operate PSK digital modes. Okay. And the SWR here is probably the highest on any band on my antenna. Okay. You'll see I just hit the button. It was 24.5 to 1. 13 watts forward, 11 reflected. I'm almost losing every bit of power going into that antenna. Okay. Now, as I hit the button, watch this. Done. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this tuner or any tuner is not making your antenna resonant. It is still a high SWR where that antenna is radiating. However, if you want to use a wire for a multi-band operation, you're going to have a tuner. And using such a tuner like I showed you here, the roller inductor, it'll take you a good 3-4 minutes per band to get the inductor and the capacitors where they need to be. Whereas this here is automatic. So a good starting point would be to have antennas that are resonant at a certain frequency, and this will fine tune it. This makes your radio very happy because it sees a 1.1 at the back of the radio, which is the most important. Now, again, my antenna right now on 30 meters is probably 25 to 1 SWR. I'm losing almost all my power. But there's no way to operate with that unless you use a tuner. So your radio is completely safe. Your tuner is completely safe, and you can operate on it because sometimes you can't have 9 different wires outside attached to a tower. You can only have maybe one wire that's, cut for 40 meters. You can tune anywhere 40, 30, 20, 15, 17, 12, and 10. And with this tuner, you can go ahead and use them on all those bands. Now, a lot of people thought that a tuner would make your antenna actually resonant, but it doesn't. So it's always a good idea to have it starting at a resonant point. In this case, my antenna is resonant on 40 meters. So in a certain without a tuner, I think 40 meters on my antenna, the highest is like 1.9 or 2.0 to 1.
Uma dica aqui do lado no texto.
We'll go back up here now just for demo
Quem
purposes.
estiver acompanhando ao vivo,
and we hit the button
radiofrequência ou internet,
okay.
ou né, quem não puder ficar com a gente aí durante o curso, na quarta aula, tá? Pega a gravação mais tarde, sem problemas, tá bom? Então, primeira dica, né, nessa parte aqui do texto, do bate-papo, estou colocando qual é a legislação. Então, você coloca no Google, é o caminho mais rápido para chegar nessa tabela, ok? Tá aqui, ó, ato 9106/2018. Na frente você coloca na tela, e lá no Google é 2 palitos, tá bom? 2 segundos, a legislação vai estar na tua frente, você vai correndo aí para baixo que você encontra a tal tabela, ok? Bom, então hoje a gente fala da segunda tabela do nosso curso de comandante de rodadas, ok? Essa tabela você encontra aqui no artigo 3º do anexo. Ato 9106/2018. Você vai indo aí para baixo, vai ter o artigo 1º, artigo 2º, 3º, 4º, 5º, maravilha, né? E chega o anexo, tá bom? Nesse anexo, ter várias tabelas, vai em frente. Dos modos de emissão, ok? Vai embora, né? Passa tudo isso. E mais para baixo, você vai chegar aí no anexo B, tá bom? Mais algumas definições, vai embora. Finalmente, a gente chega numa coisa chamada plano de faixas. Anota aí, ó. Plano de faixas, aliás, eu vou anotar para os amigos. Aqui, ó. E aí está o segredo, hein? Plano de faixas. Tranquilo? No plano de faixas, né? Aí que é a coluna vertebral, uma das, né? Uma das colunas, um dos segredos das 2 tabelas, ok? Então, vamos lá. Voltando para o nosso plano de faixa. Então, é essencial você ter esse plano de faixa na tua frente. Então, eu vou estar explicando, né? Você tem que ter ele aberto aí no seu computador, ou no tablet, ou na televisão, né? Tem acesso à internet, enfim. Tem aí na tua frente o computadorzinho. Acompanha com a gente. Primeira referência, no plano de faixas, é a faixa de 2.200 metros. Tá? Não vou explicar hoje cada uma, né? Mas só para você dar uma olhada geral. Então, olha lá, começa em 2.200 metros. Depois abaixo vai ter a faixa de 630 metros. Olha aí, ó. Tem as possibilidades CW, SSB, AM, FM, DV, que é Digital Voice, né? Modos digitais, demais modos. Vamos em frente, vai descendo, olha lá. Faixa dos 160 metros. Um monte de opções, né? Várias subdivisões. Né? Cada trechinho, cada segmento, um monte de possibilidades. Tranquilo, né? Vai descendo, olha lá. Faixa dos 80 metros. Lembrando, faixa ou banda, tudo sinônimo de comprimento de onda. Tá?
Agora são 5h31. Lembrando os amigos, temos saído um pouco mais cedo na primeira edição e também na segunda edição, porque a gente está arrumando lá o novo local da estação, ok? Essa estação nossa vai mudar de local, né? Não de casa, né? Está na mesma casa, porém, né, estou na parte de baixo, vou para a parte de cima, tá bom? E levando um monte de tranqueirados, um monte de coisa, ferramentas e um monte de peças e componentes, enfim, né? Rádios também, levando lá para cima, fontes, são tudo. Eu estou mudando aqui da parte de baixo para a parte de cima. Tá? E a última coisa vai ser a mesa aqui, onde faz a rodada, ok? Porque a mesa só sobe quando tiver o cabo passando lá pelo forro e para o quarto direto, ok? Isso só acontece quando a antena subir. A gente está aguardando aí um amigo que vai nos ajudar, ok? Subir mais antena e com isso a gente encerra essa etapa de levantamento da antena, tá bom? Então, tão logo ele vem aqui, né, que ele possa passar aqui, a gente subir a antena, a gente já muda a mesa lá para cima, ok? No mesmo dia, tá bom? Até me perguntaram se ia ficar alguns dias sem fazer a rodada. Não, negativo, hein? Estou preparando antes, né? Estou já levando um monte de coisa lá para cima, porque no dia que subir a antena é papo, né? Levar a mesa, as coisas, ligar tudo e continuar a rodada no mesmo esquema, ok? Não vai ter stop, tá bom? 5h33. Oportunidade com bom dia.
Trying to do this blind. There we go, very good. I'm going to power both of these units off and then power them back on. I usually power on the radio first. And I'm running firmware 1.14 on my IC7300. All right, so we're up and we still have the auto button in the out position. I'm transmitting into it. We've already got a good match. Let me change the match by adjusting my manual tuner. That's just before the antenna. There we go. So we're tuned up again. The other thing that we can do is we can press the tuner button on the front of the IC7300. And we're back in good match. Now, if we wanted to switch to another frequency, let's switch to an entire another band. Let me readjust my tuner here. I have a Heathkit SA2040 that sits in between my amplifier and my antenna. I'm running an 80-meter loop. And that's because the MFJ993 only handles a maximum of 300 watts. And my amplifier puts out around 650. So that's why I have multiple tuners. I like having the MFJ993 in line so I can use it as an antenna switch. It also gives me additional information about how I'm running. So since we're on 7.210, I've got my Heathkit SA2040 set correctly for that. I'm going to go ahead and switch to CW mode. And I have my mic set so that I can hold down the left mic button, which is down, and it'll give me continuous CW transmit. I have information on how to do that in another one of my videos. All of my videos will be linked below. So I'm going to go ahead and key up.